Hey, do we have the thing plugged in, babe? There we go. Should we make sure that sound's working or what? All right. Welcome to the Future Comedy Show podcast, episode 30, with special guest Billy Ray Bauer. How you doing?
Good.
Thanks for coming up. Thanks for making the trip. We got a show tonight at the 702 Bar in Midland. You, myself, Ben Rollison, and a couple other guys are going to stop out and do some time. I'm pretty excited about it. Working with a comedy extraordinaire, somebody who's been doing it for a long time. Somebody
who's too stubborn to go away. That's what you're dealing with. That's really the truth of it all, actually. But yeah, we're going to have a good time. I'm sure we'll have a good time, you young whippersnappers.
We always do. And the 702 has a spectacular audience. They're so dedicated. They're so excited for comedy. They're out. They're ready to laugh. They're ready to go.
Well, this is Midland, right?
This is Midland.
Right, with Dow Chemical. So these are people who probably have their own stash of drugs.
Oh, yeah. Well, they don't mess around. They don't mess around at all.
Very good. That's what everyone has their own squirt bottle of Roundup at the table.
Yeah. Their own.
There's a weed. All right, never mind.
So you've been in the game for 31 years, and we were just sitting here talking before even the camera started, and you had a lot of stories of just how things have changed from the beginning to...
it's the chase. It's all about the chase, really, as a comedian, because anybody who's been doing this for any length of time understands very quickly that in the business sense, comedy has a problem in that there's 10 times as much labor as needed on any given weekend. Just like in the acting profession, most actors are out of work most of the time, and same thing can be said with comedians. And so we're chasing after that work all the time, and you always will, and that's part of the problem. But the difference is that when I started in 1987, it was about the phone. You had to make time. If you had a day job, you'd have to stop at a payphone. And a payphone, kids, was a device that was put out in the public somewhere, and you could actually make phone calls from there, but you had to have coins in order to do it. Now, coins are these round metallic things that you sometimes get from like McDonald's after you've ordered a pop or something, and they'll give it to you. You may throw them away, but they actually have value.
A little bit.
Just a small amount of value.
With inflation, it's going down, but
right.
They're good to put in a. The
only thing less valuable than American coins are Canadian coins.
Yeah,
they're completely worthless.
And the loonies that they got there.
Yeah, well, and then the Canadians have a real problem, a manpower shortage.
Oh, do they?
Well, they do. You look like a Canadian nickel. On one side it's Queen Elizabeth. She's from out of town.
Yeah.
On the other side's a beaver. So what are the Canadians trying to tell us? If you flip Queen Elizabeth over, you're going to see a beaver. Pretty much what I think they're saying.
I think we need more beavers in America.
I think so.
I think that's one thing that they got going right there.
I think so. I think it's time for the trappers to return.
Yeah, we got to see those furry little animals.
Not anymore. Not the way these young people like to trim everything off. I attribute it to the whole landscaping phenomenon. You never had crews of guys in neighborhoods with lawnmowers and grass whips and stuff like that. Now, I think it's just gone past our bushes and shrubs.
Well, that's what I used to do before I was a comic. I was a small lawn service.
And I thought you were going to say you shaved your pubes.
Well, every once in a while. On special occasions, Billy, but whatever.
Which tells you know what I did this past Saturday? You know where I worked last Saturday? At a nudist colony.
Oh, did you?
Yes, I did.
And that'd be a good sight, huh?
Well, it was funny. It was my birthday, and yet they were the ones in their birthday suits.
Yeah.
And there is a rule of the nudist camp, and that is everyone that's naked are those people you'd rather not see naked.
Yeah. There wasn't no superstars there? Or...
There were lots of people in various stages of dress because it was cold on Saturday night.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So not everybody was stark naked. Some people had like a robe
Yeah.
Like they were in between takes in a porno. And then
And that's how you get started in comedy.
Exactly. So I the show starts, and like these tables of people, there'd be a lady sitting there with her boobs hanging out, and her husband, wearing a T-shirt. And it occurred to me, I says, it looks like my show has just followed a large-scale game of strip poker.
Yeah.
And we can see who's won and who's lost. And I said, and some of you people lost so badly, you even lost your own pubic hair.
Oh,
they did. Some of them.
Are they mostly older couples?
Yeah, it's skewed older, and that's unfortunate. Is gravity being what it is? I'll leave it at that.
Gravity's bringing it down. Hey, we have a few people commenting. Jody, she says, "Hi, Mike. I'm so proud of you. You are doing so good. Thank you, Jody." Jacob Noah said, "Hey, man, can't wait to see you tomorrow night at Jen's place. They're going to come out to that one, so that'll be fun." And then Audrey says, "Hey, guys, I'll see you all tonight." And Audrey's a big fan of the show at the 702. And my friend Paige Fuller made 3 little laughing, crying faces, and she's having fun. She's enjoying the naked content that we're having here.
So what you're saying is I'm going to have to be satisfied not getting laughs, but emojis.
No, they were laughing emojis. Yeah,
they were laughing emojis.
Yeah, okay. Just keep it with the naked content.
And the guy who's coming tomorrow night, he's into delayed gratification.
Delayed gratification.
Yes, he is. Tantric sex. That's what he's thinking. He's like, hey, if Sting can do it, why can't I?
Yeah, if Sting can do it.
That's right.
So,
wax off.
So, what made you want to get into comedy? What was the whole thing?
I had a real distaste for an honest day's work. The idea of 8 hours. As I like to point out, you can work for 8 hours and drive an hour to get there. I'd prefer to drive 8 hours and work for an hour.
Yeah.
And that was part of the allure. I don't know.
That's very true, though.
I always like to make people laugh. It beats the shit out of people. That where you got to deliver bad news.
Yeah,
I'm not delivering bad news.
Yeah, I had to trim old ladies' bushes, so I mean that's.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that was what I was doing before, and they really enjoyed it.
I'll bet they did.
I had this one lady. She was the sweetest lady, and she'd always invite me in afterwards after I got done trimming her bushes, and she'd say, "Good to see you, Mike."
So you were trimming this woman's bush outside?
Yeah. Well, we were like that.
That was a little indiscreet, wouldn't you say?
Indiscreet. Let me see what we got going on here.
That was the 50 Shades of Grey we've been here.
They're into it. Yeah, it just came unplugged a little bit.
Well, just a little unplugged. Yeah, if it got dark for a second there, don't worry. It was not an eclipse.
No, it's just the shiesty equipment that we have in here. All lamps from Bed Bath & Beyond. We got a few people shout out from Flint Town. Yeah, Amy. And then George says, "Hey, Mike," hands up in the air. He don't care. He likes trimming bushes too. That's George Wright. I did. George is like a funny guy. You should meet him.
And he's a bush trimmer.
Oh, he's a bushwhacker.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, that's okay. We allow for all those kind. Yeah, there's a lot of different kind of people in the world. Like I said, this nudist colony. That was the funny part. And the guy said, he goes, and we're not one of them parks with all that hanky-panky going on.
Oh.
And I said, well, what would be the point of being naked otherwise? Because, in practical terms, we live in Michigan. Comfort, if this is about comfort, being naked really doesn't make it in Michigan, really.
No.
I mean,
it's 9 months of the year now.
No. I mean, if I'm going to be naked, I typically like the temperature to fall somewhere between maybe 78 and 85.
Yeah.
To be comfortable.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, it's north of 85. You risk sticking to surfaces.
Is that what their thing was? They just want to be comfortable? That's what these nudists say? That they're like, it's just so constricting.
That's the funny contradiction, because it doesn't appear necessarily that it's comfort they seek. No, actually, I'm pretty certain it has more to do with the impulse to show off your goodies.
Oh, yeah. These people just got big schlongs and nice titties or what?
Exhibition. No, I wouldn't say that. A lot of the men, I'll tell you, especially on a cold night like Saturday night, Wasn't much to see. You know,
little turtles popping out, little turtle heads.
Well, if it was Groundhog's Day, they were not coming out of their little cave. That's for sure.
Yeah, 6 more weeks of winter.
That's for damn sure. Oh, I did a nudist camp in Virginia a couple of years ago, and the guy who ran it was probably in his 70s. And as I say, they like to shave everything. So, and you're trying not to look.
Yeah.
You know, but let me just say, if you want a visual,
these people definitely do.
Have you ever been to a novelty store and seen one of those rubber chickens?
Yeah.
It's pretty much what he was sporting.
A rubber chicken?
Rubber chicken.
Oh, long neck?
Yeah, and it looked like it recently plucked. You know. And here's the worst part. He had a bejeweled ball sack.
What?
He had studs in his scrotum.
What?
There are things you cannot unsee.
Well, that'd be the only way you'd have to be a nudist. Because like, if you're putting jewelry in your balls, you gotta show it off. You can't just be putting jewelry in your balls and not showing nobody.
And how can you sneak up on anyone? You'd hear the clink, 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 clink.
The sun glistening off, getting in people's eyes.
Go to a wedding, people start kissing, the bride and the groom.
Yeah. Just knocking those nuts together. People.
Oh, man. So, yeah, it was an experience, I'll tell you that. That's the thing about doing this. You do this long enough, and you will be asked to do gigs that there's a little voice in your head going, no.
Probably not.
Don't do this. Don't.
But you do it anyways.
You do it anyway.
Yeah.
And it's like...
Because usually those are the best paying ones.
Well, not necessarily. That's you know what the funniest part about, I think, this business that I've discovered in 31 years is that there's no correlation between degree of difficulty and remuneration. I've been paid really, really well to do some of the easiest shows.
Yeah.
A lot of times corporate shows, they're on a time schedule. I did a show up at Grand Traverse Resort last year, and the festivities were running late, so the host says to me, instead of doing your 45 minutes, can you do like 20 or 30?
Yeah.
I'll pay you the same amount. And I mean, she couldn't even get the words, I'll pay you the same amount out.
You're like,
before
yes.
I said, yes.
Of
yes,
course.
I can do that. I can do less time.
And then you get to do the...
Ask my wife, she'll tell you. I'm very amenable to doing less
And then
time.
you get to do all your best, your AAA stuff, and put it into a 25-minute set. And
that's a funny thing anymore, because I've been doing it long enough that there's just so much material that I have that I love the fact that I can walk into a room and start to look at different things, the demographic, the age of the people, the way they're dressed, their ethnicity, the group that they're involved with, whatever the reason is that they're there. And all of these things are indicators of what I should do, where I should go with these people. And so that's the benefit. All you young comics out there, that's why you keep writing.
Yeah, keep writing and
focus on the clean material. And I ain't no prude. That's not the reason. The reason you focus on the clean material is it'll get you out of countless tough situations. There's nothing more frightening to a comic than to get hired for a decent paying gig, not knowing until the moment you're about to go on stage where someone says, could you keep it clean?
Yeah, right before.
We have some Franciscan nuns in the crowd.
Wow.
And some other very overly judgmental people who will be easily offended by anything you might say. So that's why you need some of these more innocuous. That's why, you watch some of these comedians. And, I have favorite comedians that are of every stripe. I love Jim Gaffigan.
Yeah.
I love Jerry Seinfeld, but I'm also a big fan of Richard Pryor and a lot of guys that work, the term blue.
Yeah.
That's not it. The answer to the question is always the same. Is it funny?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
And if you are able to work every room, that's a great asset to have. But also, there's people like Richard Pryor or like Joe Rogan who says this is my act, and this is how I do it.
Well, yeah, but there's a difference because when you're talking about a Joe Rogan and certainly somebody like Richard Pryor, these are people who are a known entity and they have an audience.
Yeah.
Like George Carlin or for example, today you would have to take somebody like Bill Maher, who can be very polarizing because he's very political. Obviously, he's a very liberal-leaning comedian. So the problem, of course, for someone like me who's not a known quantity and not known for political humor is for me to walk into a room of strangers and make any assumptions about what their political beliefs are. So for me, it's it would be suicidal to do that. Whereas if you're Bill Maher or Dennis Miller or a number of other comics that have a known particular take, I think Jim Jeffries is a good example. Stanhope. And when you're talking about a guy like Stanhope in particular, I think Doug falls into that category that George Carlin occupied, which is to transcend being a stand-up comic. I think they're a social commentator whose opinions and they're the guys who are speaking truth to power. These are the court jesters who are the only people who could tell the king the truth without being killed for it. And there's only a few of them. And only people like a Doug Stanhope, who's brilliant at it, should even put his toe in that pool. The rest of us really need to walk away from it, because if you don't have your point of view mapped out and an audience that's interested in hearing it, then you really don't want to go there. I wrote one political joke in the last 10 years, and I will tell you this joke.
Yeah?
I unfortunately wrote the joke about Mitt Romney, whose political career is in serious doubt.
This joke's retired.
So, yeah, exactly. I wrote this joke, and 6 months later I had to retire it because he lost in the primary. So, but the joke is a little-known fact about Mitt Romney. He stutters and he has dyslexia. His first name is really Tim.
Yeah.
So, whatever.
Yeah, and there we go. We got our Republicans. They're in arms right now at home. They're like, Jesus, I can't believe you went there with Mitt. I can't believe it.
They went after Mitt. That's right. No, I don't think anybody's going to get too upset at me going after Mitt.
I don't think
or Jeb.
Poor Jeb.
Jeb Bush,
Jeb got eaten up. Jeb got eaten up, man.
He was ill prepared.
He was not ready for that coming at him.
And we thought George was a little light on on gray matter. His brother Jeb seems to have lagged even further behind George.
Well, I mean, dang, Trump just went at his manhood. He's like, "You're not a man." And he's like, "I'm not." And then he was out of the election.
Well, what do we got? What are we gonna do? We've got a very a volatile situation in our country right now.
Volatile, for sure. There's no doubt about that.
Well, it is an unusual time because, and as I said, 31 years of doing this, only within the last couple of years have I had club owners and clients who've hired me tell me before a show, they'll say, "Do you do any political humor? Because you know where you're at," and particularly small town America tends to be Trump, Trump stronghold. You don't do anything about it, and they're scared to death that you might, go off on a tirade that's going to offend their audience. And it's like, well, I'm not going there. It's not, to me, that's not what I'm there for. My job really, my job description is very simple. You sit down, I make you laugh, you get up, you leave.
Yeah.
And that's really the beginning and the middle and the end of it. Beyond that, if I impart something to you beyond the laughter, then that's just a bonus. That's But as far as my point in being there, it really isn't. It's not.
Yeah, you're not doing social commentary.
I'm not doing social.
You're
commentary.
there to show them who Billy is and make them laugh and tell them about who you are.
I don't know if you saw this article. I saw an article a couple of days ago. Either that or it was on one of the forums on Facebook or something. And they were talking about at different times in our history that and they made a good point that in the 60s the reason countercultural types like a George Carlin and others became very popular is because it reflected this rebellion.
Cast was just interrupted. I don't know what's happening. Will you check? Did we run out of battery or what's going on?
No, it's still going.
Okay, no, we're back. I don't know what happened. All right.
Just have shitty connection.
Just shitty connection. All right, thank you, Charter. That break is brought to you by Charter Cable, who just increased the price of my bill. It's still not too expensive at $59.99 a month. And if you want to know anything about Charter and you're not happy about how much they're charging you, just call, tell them you'll cancel, and then they're just going to give you a discount, and then you can keep on your service. That's a little known fact, and that's how you get cheaper bills.
I cheapen my bills substantially. Not just with cable, but with the television itself. I'm watching a 60-inch flat panel TV today, not costing me. Well, let's see, what did I spend? I think $15.
$15?
Yeah, I went to Target and I got a universal remote and I programmed it to operate my neighbor's TV.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Well, and the cool part is I also then went out and got a remote that operates his garage door.
Yeah.
So that when that idiot changes channels, I just start messing with his garage door. He has to go check it, and I go back to what I want to watch.
There you go. That's the beautiful thing about now is that you really can get entertainment for so cheap. Like the years of paying $100 for cable bills are out. It's like one of your friends gets Netflix. Like my friend Paige, who was laughing earlier, I have her Netflix account.
Of course.
And then I think I pay for Showtime. That's about it. And then maybe when Games of Thrones come back, I'll cancel my Showtime, get HBO, and that's it. That's all. $8 compared to people spending hundreds of dollars for sham WoW commercials.
In the future, Netflix will have 12 subscribers.
Yeah, and everybody will be on there.
Everybody's got those passwords for those 12 people.
But that's the beautiful thing about that's a good thing about comedy too with Netflix is that it's given so many people a platform to get out there, and everybody can see these people's comedy for $10 a month, and they're putting on 52 comics a year.
Well, that's true. I mean, it's and that's the thing is where's the mix? Well, we're watching this right now. I mean, I don't know if you were paying attention, but today it was the day that Zuckerberg is sitting in front of Congress answering questions regarding the use of users' information. And boy, if you I will listen to a little bit of it, and this kid's pretty savvy. I'll have to have my team get back with you.
Yeah.
Was his answer for about 80% of what they asked him. So, either ignorance is bliss, and he's really completely unaware of what's going on, which is pretty hard to believe.
Well, that's what he's using. Well, that's what Facebook is, man. It's just information to sell. And whoever has the most information has the lead of whatever they're trying to do. And that's been true with any kind of industry.
Well, and that's the thing. And you have all these companies today that want to sell you protection against identity theft. That's the funny thing. And it's like, here, I have the answer to that. I'm 61 years old, and I'm successful in not having my identity stolen. And it was a simple formula. It's you don't make any money.
Yeah.
And if you ain't got shit, they don't want your identity.
They give it back.
They look at my bank account and they go, I think we're going to help him out and change his password for him, and we'll send him a new one. So, yeah it's just, I don't know. I was getting emails every day from a company that told me they could protect me from unwanted emails.
Yeah, and they're the ones sending them.
Yeah, well, that was the irony. Is like, it was kind of like, it's almost like extortion. If you don't want these unwanted emails every day, you better pay us this money. And I'm having a hard time with a lot of this because all this new technology has allowed all this. It's like my mother-in-law had an issue where someone in Europe somewhere had somehow gotten a hold of her bank account electronically and took some of her money. So I went with her to the bank, and the bank said, well, yeah, you've been defrauded. They've defrauded you. And I stopped the guy at the bank, and I said, what are you talking about? No, you were defrauded, not my mother-in-law.
Yeah.
They took money from you. And he goes, well, and I go, no, you're going to replace the money because you're trying to portray this as though my mother-in-law left money on a dresser somewhere and some guy climbed in through the window and took it. No, her money was in your bank and it's federally insured. And you have a fiduciary responsibility to determine that you're not being defrauded by some unnamed individual in Estonia with a 386 base computer. And,
Did you get your money back?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Oh yeah,
Well,
they have no choice because that's why I said that's a funny part right now is all these companies. Experian is a real glaring example how all of a sudden now they're offering identity protection when of course this is the same company that within the last year had a security breach that gave out 100 million people's worth of information to hackers.
Yeah.
So now they want to sell you on the idea that we're going to keep your identity safe.
And they're the ones letting it go.
They're the ones who caused it in the first place.
Well, that's the thing. No matter what, if people want to get your identity, and these people that are computer geniuses and they know what's going on, they know how to write code or whatever, they're gonna get your information no matter what, even if it's going to your wallet, taking your card out, taking a picture of it.
I mean, there's a million ways. They put fake readers in at gas stations, so that if you use your charge card at the pump, it takes and reads your card, and then you start using it. And like I said, the only protection you have is to be broke.
To be broke.
If you ain't got no dough, there's not a whole lot they can do to you at that point.
Yeah, I may be unsuccessful at making money, but I'm very successful at keeping my identity safe.
That's right. I'll always be who I am. Because I have no money.
Well, I should probably check your ID. We don't even know if you're the real Billy Ray.
I could be an imposter.
You've stolen his identity.
Well, many people have aspired to be me. Not really. I've had days where I didn't aspire to be me.
I have a question for you, Billy.
Yeah.
You ever gonna be Bill Ray, or does Billy Ray just sound out a little better?
Here's the thing. When I first started comedy, and for the first part of my life, I was always known as Bill Bauer.
Yeah.
But a few years into comedy, I kept hearing from booking agents and others that there was this guy based out of Minnesota named Wild Bill Bauer.
And that's just a little bit better. I mean, you're Bill Bauer, but then there's a wild Bill Bauer.
I considered calling myself domesticated Bill Bauer. But it just didn't necessarily seem to really make sense.
You should have stepped it up. Fucking crazy Bill Bauer.
Well, the reason the long and the short of it is my real name is William Raymond Bauer, so I went to Billy Ray.
Yeah.
Now,
this is how we steal your identity.
Exactly. Now all the guys are sitting there going, okay, his real name is William Raymond Bauer. Okay, we even got his middle initial. It's like, well. In the end, though, that was the reason that the name change occurred, and it is a little bit incongruous because I obviously don't have the sort of speech pattern that you might associate with someone by the name of Billy Ray.
Yeah, they're like, what?
I find it. It's funny when I go do dates down south. They're expecting a good
Billy
old
Ray.
Yeah,
hey, Billy Ray Bauer down here to tell you about this chewing tobacco you got.
Yeah, we're gonna like this guy. I'm sure. He roadkill Billy. No,
this ain't Billy Ray. This is William.
That's right, William. I thought of some other thing. At one point I wanted to change my comedy name to Bert Sturgeon.
Bert Sturgeon?
Yep.
That's pretty solid.
I liked it too.
Yeah.
I just didn't have the nerve to go through with it.
Yeah.
I should have been Bert Sturgeon. Because I could just see it now. I could give away like, you know how those Billy Bass used to be able to get on the plaque on the wall?
Yeah.
Would sing "Take Me to the River." I figured a Bert Sturgeon would be like a big rubber sturgeon that would sing, I don't know,
Bert Sturgeon.
Once in a lifetime. Same as it ever was.
That's a solid name. I got a comedy name right off the bat, Mike Ball. I mean, it doesn't, but I think people might, I don't know, it doesn't matter. I kind of think it's like Mike Jones, like this rapper Mike Jones. It's very simple, easy to remember.
Yeah, well, there was a comedian who passed away a couple of years ago, Alan Ball. So you're not the first baller out there.
No.
There's other balls. There's other balls. Well, we all know there's at least two of them.
Yeah.
In most cases, unless one is undescended.
I was doing a gig in Ithaca last week, and I was...
Ithaca?
Ithaca, Michigan. Big Ithaca, Michigan. And I was adding people on Facebook to be my friend, and there was another Mike Ball from Ithaca there, and everybody thought he was going to be performing that night. They're like, oh, I didn't know that you were doing it. It's like this ring salesman from Ithaca. He like sells class rings.
Are you sure he wasn't trying to steal your identity?
Yeah, that's what he was trying to do before.
Again, he found out you were a comic, have no money, and he backed off. Maybe you should steal his identity.
Dude, Mike Ball here with the ring salesman. Get your
precious.
Yeah, get your rings. So let me see. Kevin Zioli is watching. What's up, Kev? Neil Estes says Billy is great and he golfs equally as well. Tim Rupp says hi, Mike. Hello, Tim. Shannon Caldwell did a little smiley laughing face again. Yeah. So everybody knows that you're a good golfer.
I love when you read these comments from people. It takes me back to when I was a kid. There used to be something called Romper Room, and the lady
Romper Room,
and the lady that ran Romper Room would name off people. I see Billy and Danny and Susie and Bobby.
And this is a comedy club?
No. It was a kid show.
Oh, okay.
Called Romper Room, and it was for little kids. And every episode, she would always go up to the camera and start acting like she was talking directly to the kids.
Oh,
hello, little Jerry. Okay.
Hello, William.
Okay, get your hand out of your pants, Jerry.
Jerry's like, how'd you know? You crazy.
Nowadays, they probably could see. See, that's interactive TV. That's where it'll be in the future. You'll be able to see the people at home watching.
Well, that'd be probably too much.
It would be. I think it would be. It would be an overload on your system.
But exactly what we're doing right now is, I mean, we're talking to people and they can interact with us and ask us any questions that they want. Yeah, we're getting there.
We're getting damn close.
Yeah, then pretty soon we'll have a projection of them, but you don't want to see what they're doing over there. I mean, the nudist colony's following you around.
How many people are watching and listening to this right now who are not wearing pants?
Well, Neil Estes is watching, so that's at least one.
We know one.
Kevin Zioli, he probably didn't put pants on, so that's probably two. He's probably not wearing anything. He's probably like, what? Nudist colony? Me too. Adam Mauk just said that sounds like a Twilight episode. Yeah, that could be. That actually does sound like a Twilight episode where that we have to watch them. That'd actually be.
You mean Twilight Zone or a Twilight episode?
Oh no, Twilight Zone. Yeah,
two different shows entirely. One's a chick show.
Well, we're about to get pretty romantic up in here.
Classic 1960s sci-fi.
I love that show.
Mike, you want to make a distinction here. Are you the Mike Ball comedian, or are you the Mike Ball from Ithaca that likes to sell class rings? You've got to make up your mind.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do, you know. I'm just flown in the wind.
You're floundering?
Flown in the wind like a penis at a
at a
nudist resort.
Well, I'll tell you, that was fun. Actually, they were really cool people. I enjoyed it very much.
Well, they got to be the coolest. They got to have the best sense of humor.
And I had Gary George with me. Do you know Gary?
I do not know Gary.
Gary George is a very good comedian and a great comedy writer. I love his material. And he works clean.
Oh, yeah.
He's very funny. I highly recommend him.
Gary George.
Yeah, even though, he's got two first names. That's always annoying.
Yeah.
You know.
Was that a real thing? Is he really Gary George, or is he...
His last name is really Georgievich.
Georgievich, yeah.
Yes, see, there you go. Another guy trying to, kind of throw off the identity thieves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, he's fucked, though.
Ain't life a bitch.
Yeah, Garyvich.
yeah.
Or Georgievich.
Oh, man. Nice.
You want to tell any stories? What's your highlight of your comedy career? What would you say what do you think your most shining achievement is that you're most proud of?
Most proud of? Well, I just think the longevity of it, just the fact that I didn't give up when anybody that had any sense would have. But working with Tim Allen at the Fisher Theater. Or no, I worked with Tim actually. Now that was the Smothers Brothers. See, I'm getting old. I worked with the Smothers Brothers at the Fisher Theater. I worked with Tim Allen at a number of places back in the early days.
Yeah.
This was back. That's what people don't understand is like you're talking about the comedy's had a bit of a resurgence in the last few years because of new media and different outlets and non-traditional venues. But when I started, the comedy club boom was on, and in the Detroit area alone, there had to be 12 to 15 different places where they were doing comedy on a regular basis.
Wow.
And when I started as an opening act, I could work like Tuesday through Saturday in town, never having to leave town. It's kind of like the scene that you have in New York, where it's kind of insular and people rarely get out of the New York metro area because there's so much going on there. We had something akin to that, which, of course, now it's been a war of attrition, and now we're down to, the Comedy Castle, Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, the Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase, and the Holly Hotel are really the only three Well, I take that back because we have a new one that's just open. I will be at in May. It's called Sweetwater in Waterford.
Oh, Sweetwater.
Sweetwater.
I think I did hear about that.
Yeah, and everybody says the crowd's been really good, and I guess they do live music there too.
Nice.
So hey, I'll be there in May. Come what may. So come to Sweetwater.
Sweet, and that's in what was that again?
Waterford.
Okay, and Waterford. Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Waterford.
I'll have to check that out for sure because that sounds like a nice new venue, and that's kind of what we need is.
Well, we do. There is I think we've lost quite a few comedy clubs, partly due to the fact that the comedy boom had waned. But in addition, it also had to do with just basic business. Too many comedy clubs survived in the 80s because of the boom.
Yeah.
Even if they were mismanaged, they were still able to make money and keep their doors open. But once you got into the latter part of the 90s, and then certainly once you got into the early 2000s, it really, really, if you weren't running it like the business that it is, you weren't going to last. And, when you look at the business model for a comedy club, you really have to look at, it's a miracle that they can survive, because here's a business that really only operates a few days a week.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you make enough money in 2 or 3 days to pay a staff to have a building and all the other things that go with it? So, I think maybe the answer in this may come down the line. I kind of envisioned that things kind of come full circle, and I'm kind of hoping to see a variety type nightclub atmosphere emerge again, like they had in the 40s and 50s. When you watch these old movies, and and Humphrey Bogart would walk into a nightclub, and there'd be the dancers, and they'd have an orchestra and singers, and there would be comedians, and there would be all of these people. And I think that kind of scene would be really cool if that could be recreated in the future. But
well, that's kind of like what's happening on a smaller scale with just like the venues that we're doing, like that I'm doing, or just just bars where they say, okay, well, this is the night that we're going to dedicate to comedy, and then we just produce the best quality show that we can put together, and then on the other nights, then we have country music, or they might have a DJ. It's not the schwanky kind of idea of the dancers.
Here's the thing: what I want to see happen, or what I think would be good to happen, is that for there to be a variety of entertainment on a particular bill on a given night, because then what you get is you'll get people who come out for the comedy, but you'll get some people who come out for the music, or for whatever the other entertainment forms on, and perhaps, just maybe, some people who didn't really understand. And that's the thing too, folks. If you've never been to live comedy, do it. That should be on your bucket list. If you've never gone to a live comedy show, and when I say go to a live comedy show, I'm saying go to a show, and shows that you're producing, I think, are awesome. But I think also it would be really important for people to go to a place like Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, or some of these places, and see some of these established comics. I mean, people are willing to spend the money to go see musical acts. People are, they're going to see, Foghat, even though, half the band is missing. And they'll go see them. They'll go see tribute bands. My nightmare is that someday we're going to see a slew of tribute comedians.
Oh, well, that definitely could happen.
Yeah, I mean, some guy who's, bears a vague resemblance to Rodney Dangerfield, you could just picture him, hey, it ain't easy being me,
That's a good impression.
It's just old Uncle Bill.
Well, the only thing with that, though, is comedy's not timeless. You know what I mean? Like, comedy's usually, there are some timeless bits, but a lot of things are in the moment. Like, they're kind of like you had to be there kind of thing. So,
there is some of that. I agree that not all comedy wears well with time. If you've listened to, but again, in the end, history will point out who the real influences were. Yeah. We know right now that, for example, George Carlin, if we're going to talk about, influential comedians from, say, 65 to 75, Carlin is it.
Yeah.
If we're going to talk 75 to 85, we might be talking Eddie Murphy or whatever. But the thing is the very best still stands the test of time.
Yeah,
and
Carlin does.
And I can take you back further. I was listening the other day to some radio episodes, old episodes of Jack Benny.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, if you listen to Jack Benny's show, his performance and the writing was so good, considering the social mores of the time. If you listen, you'll hear some references, sexual references and so forth, that as a kid you would never have picked up on, that are very well hidden within the structure of the overall,
That's like watching Shrek. When I was a kid, I was like just watching Shrek, and then I watch it now, I'm like, holy shit, they're just talking about banging the whole time. Like, you didn't even know about it.
Well, and it was, but that's a time-honored tradition in animation, because, my favorite cartoons as kids were the Warner Brothers cartoons, and really the physical humor in Warner Brothers cartoons, like Bugs Bunny and the Roadrunner and so forth, made kids laugh. But what made the adults laugh was the really incredibly great writing.
Yeah.
That went along.
The innuendos you didn't really, catch.
You didn't catch.
Yeah.
And that's how you've succeeded, is if you can succeed on more than one level. And they did. That's why Warner Brothers cartoons will always, and again, it's the same old thing. It's only the quality will be respected in the future. There's a lot of cartoons that were made back in the day that just, didn't hold up. I mean, it's just, and you're going to see the same thing going forward. There's certain people who are going to be influential. For example, a guy I think who's really influential in comedy that doesn't get his just desserts. Everybody loves Judd Apatow and the Coen brothers, and the Farrelly brothers, and on and on and on. But I think Mike Judge, dollar for dollar, is one of the more important people in the comedy world these days.
Yeah.
When you look at the body of work from Beavis and Butthead
King of the Hill
to Office Space, King of the Hill.
Yeah, I love King of the Hill. Bobber.
If I never poop again, well, that's just who I am. Hey?
Yeah,
Bobby, you don't want those kind of laughs.
Get the weed whipper. Mess it up. Kevin Zioli says, ask Billy about the sheep sacrifice bit with Kirk.
Oh, no, don't.
What's that one about?
Oh, it's just, there's this, years ago, there was another comedian in the Detroit area who, on occasion, would use other people's material. And there was one particular joke that I had written, and it was and here's the thing about the joke. I write a lot of jokes.
Yeah.
This joke was born out of a real experience, so it had some personal meaning to me. So I really didn't want to sell it, and then I found out later on that this dude was out on the road doing the joke.
Really?
Yeah. And the joke, which is dated at this point, you'd have to know about back in the 80s. It turns out that some middle-level manager at Amway Corporation had started a rumor that Procter & Gamble was being run by devil worshippers.
Yeah.
Because of their logo with the crescent moon and the whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So I had happened to go to this wedding with my wife, and there was this really drunken woman who insisted on trying to have a conversation with me, and she says, do you believe in astrology? I was like, no. She says, you believe in the occult? I said, no. She says, you shouldn't buy Tide detergent because it's made by devil worshippers.
Yeah.
And I said, well, ma'am, that really bums me out because Tide's the only thing that'll get those goat blood stains out of my tunic. And that was a real experience, an exchange between me and this woman. And when I had said that to the woman, my wife and the rest of my family members were all standing around. Everybody really laughed at it. And I was like, okay,
here we go.
This goes into the show. And I did the joke a lot during that period of time. But, of course, now it's lost to antiquity because, the reference, I'm not sure that many people are aware of that whole business any longer. So, that just proves the whole thing about writing is you got to keep writing. You know, I have parts of my act that I would consider timeless in that I talk a lot about my childhood, which was a very happy one growing up in Detroit, and those bits they don't seem to be affected by time and age.
Yeah.
On the other hand, political humor and topical humor has a very short shelf life.
Very short. It could be weeks.
Yeah, and you got to strike while the iron's hot. Some guys are great at it. Some guys just, you know, anything that comes along, they can really take and make a good spin on it. I have an ability to do some of that. I pride myself in the notion that I consider myself a good comedy writer in that I don't restrict myself in any way. I write all kinds of jokes and premises and this and that, you know, things. There's certain things that are just falling out of favor these days. For one thing, impressions. There's a few guys out there that do impressions. Frank Roach is a guy from Michigan, very funny guy who does impressions, and I like him. He's very funny. But it's funny because I did an audition one time for Carnival Cruise Line, and the guy just flat out told me, because I do a few impressions in my show. They're throwaways. I don't call myself an impressionist, and I don't rely on them. But I happened to do a couple of them in my set, and while the audience loved it, he just said, he goes, I don't like impressionists.
Really?
And it's like, well, isn't that nice that you're the gatekeeper for thousands of people who want to be entertained on one of your ships? Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
It's a good
thing. Because he doesn't like it.
It's a good thing your favorite aren't comedians who perform their act in Lithuanian.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, what do we got here?
Oh, okay. Okay, we're low on battery life, and we got to get rolling to the show. So, actually, I want to do one last question before we wrap it up. What was one negative thing that you had happened in your comedy career that ended up you took from a negative and turned it into a positive?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. So I took a negative and turned it into a positive, huh? That's a loaded question.
Yeah, well, I don't know anything about it.
Here's what I can tell you this. I will tell you this without naming any kind of names. But I had a run-in with a booking agent years ago, and this booking agent had kind of goofed and made a mistake, double booked. We had words. We didn't talk. We didn't have any business dealings together for 10 years. But then later, this person got back with me, apologized, and offered me one of the best paying gigs I'd had that year.
Really?
And so I think the lesson there is burning bridges. And I'm guilty of it, you know. I mean, there's people probably watching this going, "Oh, Billy, you burned a few of them. Shit, you've taken a torch to them." Yeah, and I've done that, but I've learned some lessons from it. And the lesson is don't. There's only a couple of people in this business that I would advise other comedians to avoid. There's a couple of people. Most of the comedians working in this region know about my experiences. They've seen the Fox 2 interviews I've done regarding the situation with this particular person. Mm-hmm. And I still say to those comedians, you do what you think works best for you, and what is, you have to work within the constructs of your own your own conscience, and I wouldn't tell you what you should do. I would only say, though, that if somebody asked me my opinion on this particular person and situation, I would tell them to avoid them, because in the end, I would say this to every comic: take the high road. Take the high road. If somebody closes a door on you, walk away, take a deep breath, count to 10, say nothing, move on, because you never know when that door is going to open up somewhere up the road.
Yeah. That's good advice.
Try to work with everyone that you can. I'm busier right now than I've probably ever been as a comedian, and I attribute that to the fact that I now work with more people, different booking people, clients, and so forth than I ever have before. And that's all I could say is to any young guy out there or any young lady, and I'm really talking to you young ladies, we need you desperately.
Yeah.
We desperately need you. Even if we're only willing to pay you 80 cents on the dollar to make us laugh, We need you desperately.
Yeah.
We need you, ladies.
For real. We need some ladies for sure. And there are a few good, talented ladies out there. I'm not sure if you heard of Veronica Douglas out of Flint. She's super hilarious. Abby Weitengruber out of Bay City. She's really funny.
Tanya Murray.
I really
like Tanya.
Heather J. Melanie.
Melissa
Hager. Yeah, she's doing a lot of big stuff in Fregemuth and all over the place.
Mm-hmm. And then I think Samantha Ray. Is it Rager?
Rager, yeah.
Yeah, Rager. Tina Green.
Tina?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of these.
Yeah, Tina does my shows all the time.
Oh,
Tina's great.
There you go. I mean, there are a lot of good young female comics, and I would encourage you to just keep at it. Keep at it, because, it's a business that I can tell you this. I'm the happiest point in my life. I'm happy with what I do. I enjoy what I do. I like to make people laugh at night. I like to go hit a little white ball during the day.
Yeah. And Neil attested to that.
A white ball, not Mike ball.
Yeah. Well, let's get out of here before my phone dies. I want to thank you, Billy, for coming up. We're going to be at 702 in Midland tonight, Jen's Place in Hemlock, Michigan tomorrow, and Bottoms Up Bay City, 8 o'clock, all 3 shows. Come see myself and the phenomenal Billy Ray Bauer, or William Mean Streets Bill Bauer. And you will for sure have a great time. I've seen his set. He's fucking hilarious. You guys have a fantastic time. We'll see you tonight.